Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, first of all, thank you very much for these warm words of introduction and my somehow Austrian or Viennese background or past. You maybe hear this out also of my German Viennese accent also in my English. It is a true pleasure to be here and have the opportunity to discuss with you, and thank you very much for the invitation and also your presence at this early hour of a Monday morning. During the past 14 months, every time a Greek minister and also myself stood to speak in public, everyone expected from them to speak of the current economic crisis and its impact on Greece and the European Union as a whole. Today I want and I will try to break this trend and concentrate on a different issue, one that I believe is equally vital for our Union's future, and this is the enlargement process. However, I won't shy away from describing where my country stands right now on the economic front. Let me say that we have made huge changes during the past year. Greece came close to the brink of collapse, this is true, yet managed to avoid irreversible disaster. We found the courage to tackle problems that we should have dealt with for many years, and we started on a huge deficit of more than 15% and managed to cut it by 6% in 1 year, something I think unprecedented by any account. We have undertaken reforms to open up closed professions. We have made major changes in our tax system, which we already have passed in Parliament, to minimize loopholes, scope of tax evasion, but also redistribute income in a more sustainable way and in a more just way. We have a new budget system that doesn't allow hidden deficits. We overhauled our pension system. We have passed laws for green development, as we call it, opening up our country to new areas of comparative advantages. And we are on the right track, I believe, and we are turning the story of disaster into a success story for our country. The European Union has been by our side every step of this way, and let me express once again our gratitude to all our partners for this support and solidarity shown. However, the EU had to face up to its own fiscal and institutional problems, a crisis it had not faced in the past. And if this crisis has taught Europe anything, it is this, that you can't have a stable common currency without a common economic policy. And that's why the European Union has established a financial support mechanism, and Europe may not have acted fast enough for the markets, but we did act as European Union, and in European Union terms, I dare to say quite quickly, because ultimately we know that we are all in this together. With our partners, we managed to build a mechanism that supports Greece during this time of hardship. And this mechanism now serves as the model for the future EU mechanism that will protect and strengthen our economic union, a permanent mechanism for support. Yesterday, as we all know, Ireland took a brave step by seeking the support and solidarity of its partners, and I'm confident that Ireland will succeed and the European Union will once again live up to expectations, and I believe that Greece is living proof of that. Now, ladies and gentlemen, allow me to turn to our future. Allow me to turn to EU enlargement. In a few days, we will repeat the annual ritual of assessing candidate countries in the Council. Our evaluations will be based on the reports prepared by the Commission via the well-known procedure of compromise and political considerations. We will be tough in negotiating our conclusions so that they meet the PR expectations, if you want, of the elite back at home and here in Brussels, who continue to follow the enlargement issue, while the wider public in our countries, I dare to say, have lost interest. We will then return quietly to our jobs until next year, the next assessment, when we will bring the enlargement files down from the attic and start over again. The enlargement process, ladies and gentlemen, has lost its political impetus. It has evolved into a bureaucratic, mechanic and technocratic process, despite the tireless efforts of the Commission and the responsible Commissioner, Stefan Füle, to make it a process that is political in nature. And I would like to thank Stefan Füle for all his efforts, tireless efforts in this regard. That in itself is certainly not bad, and it is also necessary. In any case, coordinating and in the end putting together several thousand pages of legislation is not the gripping stuff of, let me call it, exciting James Bond scenarios, but it has to be done to bring a country into the European Union. But without a political backbone, the endeavor is bound to get bogged down in legalistic hair-splitting over the text of legislation. And let me say that this wasn't always the case. The history of the successive EU enlargements is a history of bold political transcendence. And let me give you two examples that directly concern my country, Greece. The first involves Turkey and its achieving candidate country status back in Helsinki in 1999. Until that moment, who believed we would see such a development? Turkey had been an associate member since 1963 and had applied for accession candidate status in 1987. For most of our partners, Turkey's accession prospects were buried, if you want, under the Cyprus issue, Greek-Turkish relations, and a vague general impression that nothing would ever change in Turkey. And yet, Greece turned things around in 1999, saying yes, under certain conditions of course, to Turkey's full accession to the European Union. So when Turkey finally got a track for Europe, suddenly, and how ironic, we heard concerns about the first time as to whether Turkey really belongs in Europe. So, but let's come to that a little bit later. The second example involves the EU enlargement in the Balkans. I think we all know that the so-called Thessaloniki agenda adopted during Greece's 2003 EU presidency has so far been the basis of the region's European perspective. But the value of the Thessaloniki agenda does not consist solely in the stabilization and association process described in this Thessaloniki agenda. It also lies in the political vision held up to the Balkan peoples that one day the hatred would be in the past and everyone would enjoy freedom and prosperity in one unified European space. Today, on various pretexts, we have abandoned the effort to speak politically. In the name of the least common denominator, we have lost the vision. There are too many of us there to be broad agreement. We feel the famous enlargement fatigue. The candidates for EU membership are good ways for meeting our standards. And there are lots of excuses that are an attempt to make up for our lack of vision. But we can change this if we want to. After all, the European Union was built on a vision, the European integration of our continent. Today, I want to try to propose a way to make this vision vibrant again. And I start with the Balkans, Europe's backyard. Executive summary, if you want. Small in size, large in problems, this region. A very agated population, ethnic and religious diversity, and the general sense that everyone deserves better than they have. That everyone, as a rule, has been treated unfairly by the neighbor who has a historical debt to pay. The vicious circle of conflict and violence seems perpetual and unbroken. When Germany and Europe were celebrating their reunification, the Balkans were embarking on a new round of violence and bloodshed. A European perspective, a true European perspective, is the only thing that can break the cycle. And the stabilizing and developmental role of the European perspective has already been proven. And this is the speedy progress of Bulgaria and Romania, which are today at the forefront of our joint effort to once again give substance to the European perspectives of our common neighbors. I hope you're already aware of Agenda 2014, Greece's initiative for adopting a target date, a compass, if you like, to guide the accession efforts of the Western Balkans. When it has been 100 years since events in the Balkans sparked the first great war of the last century, World War I, instead of a dark day of remembrance, let's have cause to celebrate the success of the greatest peace project in European youth history, and this is nothing less than the European Union. We are realists. I am realist. We know that a lot of reforms have to be carried out. We know that 2014 is an ambitious finishing line, but the symbolism of our initiative, a purely political initiative, I want to stress this, has already worked as a catalyst for putting the Balkans dynamically back on the table. In recent months, we have seen a number of developments confirming that the momentum and political interest is there. This past June, for instance, we had an EU Western Balkans meeting in Sarajevo. A few weeks ago, the EU Justice and Home Affairs Ministers decided to drop the visa requirement for Bosnia and Herzegovina and Albanian nationals entering the Schengen area. And this Montenegro and the former Yugoslav Republic of Macedonia since last year. The Council has asked the Commission for an opinion on accession candidacy status for Serbia, and the Commission has already returned a positive opinion on Montenegrin candidacy status. And of course, Croatia has nearly completed negotiations on the accession chapters. Many member states have also developed initiatives in the same direction. We have heard specific target dates like, for instance, 2020. Austria, Slovenia, Italy, Spain and other countries, other EU member states, other EU partners have put their political weight behind the effort. And I welcome these initiatives and we are working closely together. And our goal now is to flesh things out, to streamline all of these ideas and make of them something that is useful, first and foremost, to the citizens of the Balkans. Something that makes them feel they are part of the European family. Something that will empower them to support the reforms and demand faster change. Greece will hold again the EU presidency in 2014. Our goal is to convene an EU Western Balkans summit meeting, Thessaloniki 2, if you want, where we can adopt a political declaration that sets a specific, ambitious and yet realistic target for completing the accession process of Western Balkan countries. A declaration that will include all of the necessary steps of progress. A declaration that will guide these countries' efforts, casting specific member states as mentors, if you like, who will stand by the candidates every step of the way. I can see, for instance, the creation of joint working groups of candidate and member states, posting of member state public administrators to candidate countries, provision of know-how, training seminars, ongoing assessment and preparation of candidates, close cooperation with the Commission, which will have to increase its role within candidate countries. We can't wait for things to happen by themselves. We must be active by ourselves. We have to play aggressively in the positive way of sense and give this process life so that people can finally see results.